Nope. No, it's all good.
I think that's
I got
me.
a package, people.
I think that's me, my bad. I got some Uber Eats.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Spill the Beans. Today I'm about to head out to sit down with Joe Dillon. I've actually known Joe for probably 5 or 6 years now. Met him through some masterminds back in the day, stayed connected on social media, and he's been in the real estate game for a while and doing some pretty high volume for a long time too. And mostly in the wholesale side of things in multiple markets across the country. And he's kind of pivoted some things that he's doing to really connect with investors who aren't really, I don't really like the word balance, but aren't really like living in harmony on a lot of different things. So I'm interested to hear a little bit more about his new endeavors, sit down with him, talk to him about how he scaled his businesses and how he helps other people do that. So thanks for being here on Spill the Beans. Let's go check it out.
Joey, what's up, dude?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. Dude, so welcome to Charleston. Tell me a little bit about what you're working on now.
Yeah, man. So I have been in wholesaling real estate for the past 7 years. I launched a wholesaling program, how to scale your wholesaling business. That was about 4 years ago, and I'm still working on that now. I still got a bunch of clients that are, driving through that and helping them elevate to new levels. And I have this new program that I'm coming out with called Meaningful Millions, which we can talk about a little bit.
I love it, man. So give me a little bit of your backstory, dude. I know, we've been connected on social for a long time.
Yeah,
and I've had a lot of great conversations back and forth, and so I know a little bit about your backstory. But let's share that with how'd you get involved in real estate? How'd you become an entrepreneur? What did your life look like early on?
And I love this story because I feel like where you got started is just such a key piece, to this whole journey. But honestly, I feel like I give credit a lot to other people, like surrounding myself with the right people, and also attracting those people into my life. I'm a big proponent of the law of attraction.
Yeah.
So I must have been 22 years old when I found out about it. And I was like,
found out about what? Real estate?
Oh, no,
law of attraction?
I'm sorry, I found out about the law of attraction.
Got it.
Right? I was working a job at the time, just graduated from Cornell, which kind of was almost like an impediment because I was like, oh wait, I got a good degree. Like, I should use that.
Ivy League.
Yeah,
I need a job. I need to go work for a bank somewhere.
Right, like I should use that to you know what I mean? To get ahead and get a good job, right? And, the American dream, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, I started reading certain books. I think I watched The Secret, and that's kind of what put me on.
Yeah.
And then I started reading books. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then after that I was hooked.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa! Like, what is this whole personal development world?
Isn't it amazing how the real education happens after formal education? It's like it's almost sad, It's like, how come we're not just programmed the right? That's why we came out with the kids' books, to try to instill some of these principles from an early age of success and really just philosophy of achievement and just living a good life, kind of thing.
I love that. One of my lifelong dreams, and I really one of my goals in life is to kind of do what you're doing and approach it from the youth perspective, right? But yeah, I totally agree. So basically, what happened was I really started getting into it, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. No idea. All I know is I wanted to own my own business because I was working for other people, and it was,
Were you working in the real estate industry?
No. Well. Kind of, but not really. I'll say no. Okay. I was working for this company called PKF Consulting, which was Cornell grads, but they worked under CBRE.
Yeah.
So
got it.
There was kind of that connection there, but to be honest, man, like I said, as soon as I started getting into it, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. This is real education, right? Dude, I just looked up how much it costs to go to Cornell. It's like almost $80,000 a year. And I'm like, man, I got so much more out of self-education. Like, not even a question. We're talking about a pin and a ton, right? Like, so much more out of self-education. And because of that, I started attracting this new way of thinking into my life. And that new way of thinking started attracting, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, like I said, but I know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to own my own business, especially after reading these books. And I was like,
So what does somebody do? Like, what's the next step? Hey, I know I want to be an entrepreneur. I know I want to be able to, dictate my own life and my own value and what my worth is, and go and attack this. Like, what would you say to somebody who comes to you who's in that seat, who's, like, hey, I'm at a job right now. I don't know what the next step is. Like, what is that next step? How do they identify? How do they figure out what they want to do? What kind of like advice or direction would you give them on that?
100%. And the thing about law of attraction is it's not enough to just think it, right?
Yeah.
You have to do. And so I'm a huge proponent of just taking massive action, especially at the beginning. Like, you gotta just take a ridiculous amount of action at the beginning, even if you don't know what that is.
Dude, and realizing a lot of it's going to be time wasted, but it's kind of like figuring it out,
100%. It's like you have to, I forgot where I read this, but it's like when you walk the path will be shown to you. It's like you got to walk it, and then it'll almost be shown as you walk it. And so I think a lot of people get stuck in like analysis paralysis, and a lot of people get stuck in their own limiting beliefs. And so, I think because of that, especially at the beginning stages, it's just all about taking massive action. So find out something that interests you and just start going to town on research and how you can take your first step now. Not 6 months, not maybe someday, taking that step now. And a big part of that is like the universe rewards you when you act boldly. 100%. I mean, shoot, you're a prime example of that, brother.
Well, I always use like the analogy, like you can't learn how to swim by reading about it in a book, right? You have to get in the water and actually like feel the water and feel what it's like to float and feel what it's like to sink and feel like you have to understand what it's like actually being in it. And I think business is the same thing. You got to go and do it. It's going to be messy, right? You're going to fall off your bike before you can actually ride it finessely. And that's part of the journey. And just going in and understanding that is it, that nobody has win after win after win. Like my little guy is 5 years old. And dude, he scooters like a friggin' maniac all around the driveway and up the street and the sidewalk and all this stuff. But he only uses his left foot to push. And I was like, hey buddy, what if you tried using your right foot? And he's like, well, I can do it, but it's just slower. It's slow. I'm not as good at it. So I'm just going to go back to this one. I was like, bud, the way that you get better, you started out slow with this foot. He goes, you know what? I was slower with this foot, and then I just kept practicing, Dad, and then I got better. I was like, yeah, let's try that with the other foot. It's like, as long as they understand that it's part of the journey of not being good before you get good. 100%. Like everybody thinks they have to be good right out of the gate, and that's not the case. And I know we all want to be good right away, but that's not how the universe works, man.
Absolutely, and I mean, I think one of the main things that people should practice nowadays is delaying gratification, right? When you can develop a mentality of honestly going through the suckiness part of it and being okay with that, that's so powerful. Dude. Because you're on a path, but you also have that humility of like, hey, this is where I'm at now, but I'm ready to do it.
Yep.
Like when I see
That's a great point.
Yeah, like dude, as successful business owners, when you see like a young guy or girl that's super hungry and they're motivated, like, don't you just want to just bless them?
Yeah.
Like that's all,
How do we support you? How do we, let me point you in the right direction. Let me put you on the right path.
But it's like having that, first. But anyhow, didn't mean to go off on too much of a tangent. So back to my story, I attracted into my life, this is why I credit the law of attraction and I also credit other people. I attracted into my life this this kind of it was kind of like a second or third cousin. He's kind of related, but not really. I talked to him at my family reunion. And coincidentally, this just happened right after I started reading about this stuff, right? About the law of attraction. I also read The Science of Getting Rich, and that part is really cool too. And he ended up telling me that he was flipping cars, okay? So long story short, I know we don't have all day here, but long story short, we got in contact, and I started flipping cars with him on the side of my job, right? If you have a job, I always recommend doing something on the side. Just start, get your feet wet, get started. And
what Jim Rohn say, work full-time on your job, part-time on your fortune, and eventually you get to a point where you can go full-time on your fortune.
Absolutely.
You know? That's an exciting place to be.
Absolutely, man. It's so exciting because you're building something for you, you know? And so I ran into him. We ended up partnering together. There was this really there was this event that happened where, I won't go into the details, but basically it was like a 1 in a million chance that I was going to run into him. I basically stopped. I never reached out back to him, but it was like a 1 in a million chance where we met at this one place, this one time. And it turns out that he believed in the law of attraction too. And we're like, whoa, all right, there's something here. So we partnered together, and he basically showed me the ropes on how to flip cars. I went through about 6-8 months of that, and the greatest thing happened to me. I got laid off from my job. And I think the universe I was calling that into my life.
He's ready for it.
At the beginning, when that first happened, I was like, oh shit, you know, that like heart sunken feeling of like, what am I gonna do? And then as soon as I left the building, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go and do this full time. And so I kept flipping cars. Later, I end up meeting, we were cleaning one of these cars, right? Basically what we did is we bought cars, we cleaned them up, we repaired them, and then we flipped them. And I met this guy named Raph at one of the places where we were cleaning cars. And it turns out that we had a conversation, he was flipping houses. He was just getting started. And so, again, that's why I give credit to other people, because I just got around people that were already doing things. I learned from them, right? And long story short with that too, over the span of the next 6-8 months, we kept running into each other randomly. And I lived in DC. The city's huge. And then so we kept meeting up, and I was like, there's something here. Long story short, again, we end up partnering together about 8 months later, and basically blowing up this wholesaling business together. And so we, to start the wholesaling, we were doing a ton of cold calling, a ton of door knocking, right?
This is what, 2016, 17?
This is actually 14.
14, okay.
2014, yeah. So I was 24 at the time, and we were like a couple of young kids. Like we kind of didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we knew that we were dedicated to ourselves and dedicated to our dreams. And so we just took ridiculous amounts of action. Yeah. And doing it as a team too, it just produced amazing results.
Well, dude, you get to learn from each other's mistakes and learn from each other's wins. 100%. And it accelerates everything, you know, when you're partnering up and collaborating versus trying to do everything on an island by yourself, which it's tough, man. It's tough to be an entrepreneur and like kind of do your own thing, not have conversations, and not have people that you can bounce ideas off of and strategies. But when you have a partnership or you're part of like a mastermind or you have like a collective of other entrepreneurs that you get together with and grab coffee or breakfast with once a month, like, dude, that helps just, kind of relieve some of the stress and give you ideas and strategies and connections and resources in order to advance things. So, dude, being around the power of proximity, man, is incredibly important.
So important. And I've seen the fruit of that in my life. And I was recently reading this book called The Great CEO Within, who was written by the guy who sold a company to what is now Verizon. So he sold Verizon, but it wasn't called Verizon yet. But he sold that company to Verizon. And he was saying that he's basically a venture capitalist now, right? But he specifically, 90% of who he invests in is like partners. because he's like, I have seen how hard it is to do it on your own, and how much of an emotional burden it is. And so, yeah, I mean.
So he only invests in majority of the investments that he makes is not in an individual who has an idea. It's in a partnership that has an idea.
Yeah, and so it was cool to see that. But I mean, you can't do anything without other people.
Yeah.
You can't do anything.
You need a team, man.
You have to have other people by your side, and it's just not only does it make the actual results better, like 1 + 1 is 10 in that case, but it's just way more fun.
It is.
It's way more fun.
It is.
And so
it's more fun and less depressing, right? So the highs are higher and the lows are higher as well.
Yeah.
So it's like at least we can laugh about this and deal with this nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with text messages this morning and stuff, and phone calls last night. And that's just like, it's almost laughable, right?
Yeah.
But at least I can laugh about it with some people on my team. We're like, dude, we've been through it before. Let's get through it again. Whatever it is, what it is. But if it was like just me being consumed by this and I couldn't talk to anybody about it, that's a tough spot to be in, man. You got to have that camaraderie in your business, whether that's internally, a joint venture partner, somebody who works on your team, or just outside counsel kind of a thing, or like a board of directors that you can bounce ideas off of.
For sure.
So. Moving forward,
wholesaling,
you guys ended up going in different directions, right?
Yeah. So we through a lot of trial and error, we built the business to hit 7 figures.
Yep.
What we did, the big part of what we did is like, we implemented structure into the business. We went through a lot of ups and downs first, right? We're like, hold on, all right. Our bank account has almost hit 0 a few times now. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yep.
So we hired mentors, we read certain books, and we structured the business. We put systems in place. We put accountabilities in place.
What did that look like? Like, give me ideas. Like, everybody always talks about systems. Everybody always talks about processes. Everybody always talks about, all this stuff. Like, what did that actually look like for you guys? Is that a CRM system, like some sort of software? Is that checklists? Is that process maps? Is that you found somebody? Did you do it? Did you hire somebody to do it? Like, dive a little bit deeper into like the importance of that and what that allowed you guys to do and how specifically you kind of implemented some of those things.
Dude, I'm so glad you asked, because this is the part that I love, right? It's like the fundamentals of what tangible steps to take to structure your business so you can scale it. So CRM for sure, right? We had a CRM, but it was kind of like, I forgot what it was called, but it was one of those old school ones that was free and like, it wasn't
like Podio or?
Actually, no. This was before Podio, man. I think it was called High Rise.
Okay.
Back in the day. So, but
so it's a CRM is a software that you use in order to, as calls come in, you can manage the relationships with potential customers or clients or whoever.
Exactly. So, it's basically a database of your clients, right? A database of your customers, and so a way to keep track of that, right? And so we put system in place for not only the leads, but how to manage the leads, right? It's like, okay, well, this person said she's not interested right now, but she wasn't too far off on price. Let's put her in a cold follow-up 4 months.
Yep.
Right?
So it's almost like you're ranking like how hot the lead is. So it's A means they're ready to go. B means follow up every 30 to 60 days.
Exactly.
C means follow up every 6 to 12 months.
Right.
D means we got cussed at or something and said don't ever call back.
Yeah, and like I essentially just call it categorization of leads. What are your categories of your leads? And we have created a whole process flow to where, like, okay, if it follows this. If it's in these conditions, put it in bucket B, right, or category B, and then that's going to have an automated follow-up.
Yep. It essentially takes the thinking out of it, right?
Absolutely.
So now a new hire who doesn't have years of experience like you have, can step into that role, and they can follow a simple process map that says, if this, then that. If this, then that.
Absolutely.
And then boom, 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 and they move, around the board. Back and forth based on what the conversation looks like. So it makes it more predictable of a business, more predictable of a revenue
100%.
stream.
Yeah. So CRM, process maps, Accountabilities where we actually originally started with a third partner too, but we ended up buying him out. But we created crystal clear accountabilities, as opposed to
Like KPIs?
Accountabilities meaning like, okay, here's what I'm responsible for. Here's what you're responsible for.
Yeah,
right. And it played to our strong suits, right? And putting people in the right seats is probably, once you're at a certain level of your business, is probably one of the most powerful things to grow your business. But before, we were all just doing everything.
Yeah.
Like chickens with their head cut off.
Everybody's in every box. You're stepping on each other's feet. And you're like, getting each other's way.
And then like, oh, whoops, I actually already
too
called
many
that
cooks
lead.
in the kitchen.
I already called that lead, like, you know what I mean? And so accountabilities, and we also started having meetings, which, as simple as that is, provided so much normalization to the business, to where you're actually discussing, you're not just working in the business, you're like taking a look at the business, and then that's going to give you a different direction for what to work on next. And hey, our lead management process is actually really shitty right now.
Yeah.
Let's work on that.
Yeah.
Right?
What do we need to do? Where are the bottlenecks? Well, this is always a recurring issue. If it happens more than 3 times, then this is something that definitely needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and the way in which we understood what were the issues in our business was, you already said it, was data and KPIs. That was probably the single thing that like gave us the most understanding of our business. We were like, oh wow, it's taking us 32 leads to get a contract.
Bro, it's running a business based on feeling versus running a business based on data, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, well, I think we should be doing this. Well, like, what does the data say? It's like not knowing math and then knowing math, right? It's like, it provides a level of clarity and predictability and understanding of what actually makes sense. And I like math, but I'm always like a big vision kind of a guy, you know what I mean? And so KPIs wasn't something that I really was like, I heard about it and stuff. I didn't really implement, but once we implemented it, it was like, it created predictability, because now you could say, hey, the acquisitions team, like, it's not about the goals. The goal is like the end result, but there's a lot of things that can happen that aren't, the acquisitions team's fault of why a deal doesn't close, right? Like, hey, your goal is to close 4 deals this month as an acquisitions person, but the reality is, there could be title issues, there could be inspection issues, there could be, a crazy seller that backs out, or some sort of a person who has a claim to the deal, and you got to work through whatever. But it's like, what can they actually control? And what they can control is how many offers are made, right? How many phone calls are made, and how many, based on that number of phone calls, you get a certain number of ratio of offers made, offers accepted, and then under contract, and then due diligence, and then title, and then closed, right? And now you have predictability once you know what those numbers, once you know what that ratio looks like.
Absolutely.
If you have to make 100 phone calls in order to close 1 deal, and I'm a salesperson, I want to close 4 next month, guess what? I got to make 400 phone calls.
Right.
And the predictability is there. And what happens is they also get better at those phone calls, right? So now the ratio turns into, I close 1.5 to 2 deals for every 100 phone calls that I make. Yeah. And over time, the ratio gets better because they're getting better. And now, hey, I can make 400 phone calls and close 7 or 8 deals a month, and it gets them excited. So now they have predictability of how many, and it removes all the drama. It removes the, oh, somebody hung up on me. Somebody told me no. Somebody told me to kick rocks or fly a kite or whatever. And it's like, no problem. I know that was only like the 30th phone call, so I just need to make another 70 phone calls, and I'll come across the deal, right? It removes the emotion from the process when you have KPIs in place. Absolutely.
And you said you're a big picture guy. You're not a data KPIs guy. That's actually really common, especially like typically it takes a certain kind of person to start a business. And what I've seen is typically that person is a driver mentality, big picture mentality, don't like the small details, right? And so, like, for example, in my coaching program that for my wholesalers, that I help take them from, let's say, low 6 figures to 7 figures, I give them my CRM, which automatically spits out the KPIs. And it's like, it's such a game changer.
All you gotta do is put the data in, man, and just log it, and then it pulls it up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cool part is like, look, you were giving that example of the 100 calls to get a deal, right? Like if let's say if that's the number, but you wouldn't know that if you're not tracking your numbers. You wouldn't know that, and you know.
And instead, you're on this emotional roller coaster, ups and downs, ups and downs.
100%. And like the data and the KPIs paint such a clear picture. It also helps you determine, one of the biggest benefits of the data and KPIs is it helps you determine what's wrong and what needs improvement. And so, you know, if you have, let's say, a high number, I mean, I get really in depth, right, with my KPIs. So for example, like let's say I have, 100 calls that come in, and, only, let's say 60 of them are actually, or let's say 50 of them are actually interested in selling. Oh, maybe I need to change up my marketing, because I'm getting a whole 50% waste that my acquisitions are picking up the phones and wasting their time. So we need to tighten up marketing to where there's like maybe 70, 80%.
Yep.
Right? And so that's just an example.
Love it.
And,
But it shows you where the gaps are in your business, or where the bottlenecks are. And then you can fix that bottleneck, and then you find it, it bottlenecks again over here. And then you just continuously dial everything up in a better way, in a more efficient way, in a more effective way, to the point where like, boom, man, this thing's streamlined. And that takes time. It
does.
Like we're doing it with our ad spend for Commercial Empire and some of the other stuff that we have going on too on our deal flow for our apartment buildings and our triple net lease deals and all this other stuff and raising capital. And so like it's something you're always testing. It's something that you're always doing.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of business, right? It's like you're never done.
Yeah.
You're never done. There's always something to be done.
Yeah.
Always something to be enhanced, improved, optimized, and
that's if the market stays stagnant or stays steady, right? And then all of a sudden there's all these external factors, or Facebook changed their algorithm, or Instagram changes their algorithm, or YouTube changes their algorithm, or like all this other stuff that happens where you got to continue to pivot over and over and over again and play with those dynamics. And if you let that stuff bother you and you get derailed by it, dude, that's who gets pushed to the side, If you stay flexible, you stay malleable, and you're willing to move and shake and be agile in your business, dude, those are the people who capitalize, especially when markets shift and stuff like this. So, dude, what I love about your wholesaling business is you teach people how to go out and wholesale, and I think there's really 3 major skill sets that you have to know in order to really be good at business, or really any business, but specifically real estate, is one, you got to know how to find deals. Dude, if you know how to find deals, it doesn't matter what market looks like. Like you can find off-market, direct-to-seller deals where you can communicate, you know how to talk to sellers, you know how to talk to brokers, you know how to structure a deal, you know how to underwrite the numbers, and now it's very predictable of how much deal flow you can get. Second side is how do you go and I think you guys teach this, at least the dispo, or how to raise private money if somebody can take it down and raise capital. So finding deals, raising money, like those are the 2 things, the 2 skill sets you got to learn if you want to get involved in real estate. If you can do those 2 things, doesn't matter what the market looks like. 10 years ago, deals were everywhere, but money was nowhere. 2 years ago, money's everywhere, but deals are nowhere. So if you have those 2 skill sets, it doesn't matter if the market's up, the market's down, the market's sideways. Doesn't matter. It's if you have those 2 skill sets, you can do deals regardless of what the market looks like. So then the third one I would say would be dialing in your operations. If you're planning on holding, or building out the team or anything along those lines. But like the first 2, get deals done, right, and get you in the game. So like if you're new, you got to develop skill sets on how to find deals and how to raise money, or how to creatively finance and structure deals. Like those 2 things will set you up to do deals in any market.
Yeah, and like the finding deals part, like it's simple. It's not necessarily easy, but it's simple. There's really just 2 aspects. Well, I would say there's 3 aspects. It's like, who are you actually getting in front of, right? So marketing with, let's say, with the wholesaling, single family wholesaling, you're buying lists, you're nurturing those lists, and you're attacking them from different avenues, right? You might cold call them, you might send them an SMS, you might send them a piece of mail, depending, and there might be combinations of that depending on how hot the list is. So it's like list management, right? So that's the first thing. It's just like really getting really good with who you're targeting. After that, it's just sales.
Yep.
It's like, look,
And that's a skill set that transcends business, transcends industry, transcends asset class. If you understand sales, like you can step into any role and generate revenue. You have value forever.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not just business. Sales is so crucial to life in general. But
you can attract a spouse, right? You can get your kids to listen to you. You can if you understand sales psychology, then you can attract anything. I mean, dude,
100%.
You're in a bar and somebody's an asshole and you accidentally spill your drink on them or something. They want to fight you. You can talk your way out of it if you understand sales, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of dynamics where sales actually are very important to not just making money, but life.
So the new course is coming out, How to Not Get Your Ass Kicked,
Yeah,
and how to attract a spouse.
I can tell some stories, bro. I've talked my way out of some crazy shit in my day.
I bet, dude. Yeah, I feel like all people have. So it's all right. So it's list management, sales, and then it's for me, I teach the lead management, which is really like learning how to be a beast at follow up, because 90% of the deals aren't follow up. Maybe 5 to 10%, and 10% is being generous, of homeowners that you talk to are going to be ready to go right then and there if you're doing off-market deals. This is specifically off-market, right? So, if you can master those three, you can find deals.
Love it.
You can find deals regularly, right? And that's part of the structure that we put in place. And so, kind of going back to it, when we put the structure in place, we hit 7 figures that next year. At 25 and 24 years old kids, we made our first $1 million, right? And then we had only gone up from there. Moved down to Tampa. We continued to build the team out to the point where we were doing business in 5 different markets, and we were doing anywhere from 15 to 25 sometimes homes per month that we were wholesaling. Mostly was wholesale. Some we would keep. So there we were, 23, 24-year-old kids. We had just made our first $1 million as a business, and from there, it just skyrocketed from there. We got people we hired people into the right seats, and then we eventually moved down to Tampa, and we had a business that was operating in 5 different markets, and we were doing anywhere from 15 to 25 wholesale deals a month, and it was great.
Dude, I think people are like, well, and then you became a guru. If your business was doing so well, how come you're coaching people?
Yeah.
Like I don't think. I don't know, majority of the population realize like how much we get bombarded with messages when we're talking about how we're doing deals. We're really trying to share and support and just let people know that there's other opportunities. Like, you don't need to be stuck wherever you are. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do in order to build wealth or have a side business or work part-time on your fortune. And dude, I got so many messages early on. It's like, dude, you need to teach people. Like, dude, it's selfish of you not to teach, right? And then all of a sudden you start teaching people and they're like, oh, well, he's just being a guru. But like, you guys you've turned it into a consulting platform, which allows you now to make an impact with other people, help 100%. Other people build wealth. Obviously you're getting paid for the value that you bring to the table.
Sure, yeah.
You're still doing deals. And from that coaching, we were talking a little bit offline about like, everybody thinks, hey, if I made this much more money, like I'd be set, right? And then you get there and you're like, well, I really need to be here and this much more money, and then I'd be set. And then if I got here, then I'd be happy.
Right.
And that's something that you've seen across students as they start making more and more money. They think it's going to lead to happiness, but it doesn't, right? Like, how has that impacted you? How has it impacted your students? How have you helped them overcome that? And I know that you're working on kind of like the lifestyle, designing your life, and having a business that fits around it now too, right?
Yeah. So I think everyone goes through this. And we were talking about this earlier when we were just shooting the shit, but I think everyone that makes a significant amount of money goes through this almost revelation, the self-revelation, where like, okay, I have more than enough money than I'm good. Like, I have more than enough money than I need. Is this it? Like, I thought I would feel different.
Yeah.
I thought that I would be happier. And so, through my own business, through coaching, hundreds of wholesale businesses and real estate investors, I realized like, man, this is a really common thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my goals in life now, my mission is to help entrepreneurs not only become financially abundant, but also have their happiness, their joy, and their purpose, their sense of fulfillment increase as well. And in some cases right now, it's even staying the same or it's even decreasing, right? Because they're stressed and they're overwhelmed. And so
There's social media, dude. You're comparing somebody's highlight reel on social media to
Right.
your blooper reel, right, in
Yeah.
real life, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Dude, there's plenty of bloopers out there. People just don't post about that on social. So, but it exacerbates that feeling, It
Absolutely.
amplifies it in a way where you're feeling so unfulfilled, and you think, hey, if I can go get the car, or if I go and get that house, or if I go and get the jet, or whatever, then I'll be there. And the reality is, it's a very temporary high. It doesn't keep you up,
Yeah, and it's not based on anything. It's not rooted in anything real.
Yeah, real or value, right?
It's rooted in an external versus an internal, right? So I believe there's two components to happiness. There's your day-to-day state, your day-to-day sense of well-being, right? And that has to do with the way that a big part of that is like the way that you see the world, perspectives, right? Paradigms. It's like if one of my old business partners, he always thought that people were out to get him.
Yep.
And so
I've had that same kind of business partner in the past.
Really?
dude. Yeah.
And so, in The Secret, they say, okay, there's this universe genie. He's like, your wish is my command.
Mm-hmm.
And so his whole life is like him thinking that people are out to get him.
Yep. And he
And
focuses
so-
on that. He finds people who are that,
Yeah.
or he thinks that people who are good are trying to burn him also, right? And then all of a sudden it just turns into like these stories in their head of dude, and I think that's a projection type of a thing. Like
Absolutely.
some guys that I was in business with, dude, they were in the business of just going and screwing people in their traditional business. And I didn't, kind of really realize that when I got into business with them. And then I saw that, and then they always thought everybody else was trying to screw them because that's how they thought all the time. And I was like, I got to get away from this shit.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be infectious and poisonous.
Yeah.
And so, but what is that? That's a paradigm. It's like, this is the way that I see the world. And we all have many different paradigms. Like, this is the way that I see the world. And so one of the things that we focus on my new program that I just created, which is called Meaningful Millions, I believe that happiness comes from two places. It's the paradigms from which we operate. It's like our day-to-day state and our sense of well-being. And what is that? That's our paradigms. That's also our health. I recently went through a health journey where, like, man, if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And so, things like habits and practices that are really going to change and elevate your overall state. But it's not just enough of that. It's like, we also want our life to mean something. And so the second component is overall life satisfaction with regards to your relationships, with regards to your impact, your legacy. What was your life about, right? And so those two components are two things that we really hone on in my new program. And also, we're integrating that with the specific steps to build a seven-figure, multi-seven-figure, and even eight-figure business.
And I think that's the key, man. Like, it's hard to quantify, as we were talking before, the return on investment by having the purpose-driven side of your life dialed in. Yeah. But what you realize is once that is dialed in, dude, everything else fires on all cylinders. Your relationships are better, which means you're happier, which means your work, you show up to work in a different way, you show up to your business in a different way, you show up to all your relationships, you answer the phone in a different way, right? People want to do business with you because you're a happier person and not somebody who complains all the friggin' time. Like, dude, having that piece dialed in sets everything else up for success. And that's why it's so important. But it's hard for people to quantify that because they're like, well, there's no direct ROI, and I'm not paying X number of dollars and getting a 10X return on it or something. But it's like, if you realize, if you have some wisdom behind you, and you've been around the block a couple times, you realize that is the key. Having that dialed in, and everything else follows. You know.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, but the reason, what you just said is also the reason why I also included, like, hey, there's going to be some serious, tangible, step-by-step instruction on how to scale your business. If you're, let's say, for example, you're a solopreneur, do these 3 things before you go and hire someone. Oh, and by the way, when you're ready to hire someone, hire this person first. And when you hire this person first, this is what you want to train them on.
Love it.
And then the next step is to increase marketing, because now you're at a higher capacity to handle sales. And so it's kind of like very, very actionable steps to scaling your business too.
Dude, I'm excited, man. I love watching your journey. I love seeing your growth. I love the impact that you're making, dude. You lead with just value and heart all the time, man. So, dude, we got a lot of runway ahead of us. So it's exciting to see how we're all kind of growing on this journey together, man.
I appreciate you having me, man. It's been a blessing of a journey so far, and I know you're doing amazing things in the world. So it's cool to see, and thank you for having me, bro.
It means a lot. Joe Dillon, make sure you guys connected with him. Until next time, see you guys on Spill the Beans.
Hey, hope you guys got a ton of value out of that Spill the Beans episode. If you're not part of Legacy Wealth Academy, you should definitely check that out, lwacademy.com. It's a library of digital masterclasses that will teach you a lot of the foundational elements about anything that you're looking to learn regarding real estate, whether it's residential or commercial, wealth building topics, wealth preservation topics, entrepreneurship, lifestyle design, mindset, you name it. We drop 2 new courses every single month in there. And one of our masterclass contributors, one of the coaches, goes live every other Thursday for an Ask Me Anything Q&A. Anything that you're looking for, you can get answers there in our private Facebook group. So appreciate you guys plugging in. Please do me a favor and like the video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We keep on putting more and more value out there, and kind of helps the algorithm the more people that like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. So appreciate you guys. Until next time, be your best.